All right, we are live.
Hey, at last.
Hey,
So how you been anyway?
I'm good. It's cooled down quite a bit here. I'm enjoying it. I really should be doing this outside.
Yeah, except outside here is baking again for some reason. We had a kind of weekend of cooling down weather to be replaced by, hey, here's the sun again.
I was hoping you'd be past your heat wave by now.
Yeah, me too, because I'm actually boiling the office and thinking maybe I'll have the fan on, but it's probably going to be a bit too loud.
Well, considering it was about a week from the time that we had our heat wave till you had yours, probably be a week before it cools down for you.
Nice, thank you. Sensing that famous Minnesotans move that way, you know?
Well, I've just got to get that Canadian air over your way.
Hey, so what have you been up to?
Well, I just got back from visiting my dad in Milwaukee, which you apparently seem to think is like down by Atlanta or something.
No, I thought it was as low as, Florida is, you know? I thought you went to the deep south.
No, that's not deep. It's still very much the Midwest. Milwaukee is like 90 minutes away from Chicago, which is still pretty far north.
Okay.
So I was not anywhere near Alabama, any of those places, and nor would I ever be caught dead in those places.
Ooh,
It's too muggy.
controversial, mate.
No, it's too muggy. There's too many insects, and yeah. So we should probably refrain from any political commentary here because, and I'll probably cut that out. Um, anyway, so it hasn't been productive, but it was a nice weekend to get away, see my dad. We Milwaukee has this amazing seafood restaurant there that's like really cheap as seafood restaurants go. And I had a calamari steak there, which I've never had before, and it was just amazing.
Calamari steak.
Yeah, so I think what they do is they take the part that's not the tentacles, and they cut it into a steak, like it's flat fillets, and they dip it in a crap ton of butter and breading and mushrooms, and it is just absolutely divine.
Isn't that just like pure rubber at that point?
Well, that's the weird thing. It doesn't. It wasn't rubbery. So they do something to it. It was like I had something like it in Barcelona, where it was a breakfast I had with squid, and again it was very tender. So I don't know what they do to it, but you can make it so that it's not rubbery. I think if you just boil it, it makes it rubbery. I think maybe if you broil it or grill it or do something to it, that's what it is. So much of the time I have like you have boiled octopus or something like that, and it's really chewy, but
Yeah.
I don't know. So how about you? I know you've been coding like a monster.
Only a bit. Spent most of the weekend in London Film and Comic Con. Spent way too much money buying original artwork comics.
I saw that.
It was
Nice.
good. Yeah. That was fun.
I'm sure. And the artist was there?
Yeah, okay, yeah, they were there. I mean, that was the problem. I went there to see PJ Holden, who's an artist on 2000 AD, because I thought he might be there. So I went along and went, yes, he's there. So finally get to meet him. We speak every now and then on Twitter. And he had some of his original artwork there, which appeared in 2000 AD. So I thought, I've always wanted a 2000 AD piece. So I went, okay, I'm going to choose. And I chose the piece of a Dread strip. That was good. Then I noticed there was another 2000 AD artist on the aisle next to him, who just happened to have the most iconic modern piece of artwork in Dread ever. And he had it there. And it was like, it's for sale. It was quite expensive.
I can imagine. Imagine.
There are a few arguments over that one that night.
What's that?
A few arguments over that one that night.
Yeah, I'm sure. I don't want to get in the middle of it. I actually just ordered. There's a woman from, I believe she's from Madrid. Her name is Rebecca Puebla, and she's on Twitter as at Subversive Girl. For those of you who are listening, if you want to check out her artwork, and I've ordered 2 pieces from her. I have one Actually, they're both of 11 from Stranger Things. And just because, well, first of all, I love the show, and I love how she renders the character. But she does these really wonderful ink and colored pencil drawings. You look at them, they look really, really sketchy, but the likenesses are really dead on. It's just she has a wonderful style, and so I bought a couple of original works from her, and I bought one from Rob Turpin, at that Northern Boy. I'm not as aggressive in pursuing a collection as you are of his stuff, but it's nice to own. It's nice to own some originals. I will say that.
Well, see, the thing is about mine, right? So back in the early 80s, my father took me to, do you remember Forbidden Planet when you came over there?
Yeah.
Well, there was only one of those back in those days, and it was down in London. And he took me there, okay? Because I used to be really into 2000 AD and all that kind of stuff. So went along, and they used to sell there the original artwork from 2000 AD, and it used to be like £75 a piece. Problem is, back in the 80s, £75 was quite a lot of money, yeah?
Yeah.
But compared to today, it's £75 is, you buy, it's less than a meal costs you more than that these days in London.
Yeah.
Literally. So, and I've always regretted not taking that advantage. Well, I didn't have 75 quid, so I couldn't have done it anyway, but I've not been able to get that piece from back then, because those pieces are now worth in the regions of thousands.
Well, that's the thing back then. Even if a few pounds was like comparatively then a lot of money, it was still proportionally not nearly as much as the artwork is selling for now. I mean, what did you spend a couple £100 on each page? Oh, fuck. Okay, I won't ask. Oh, my God. Yeah, I would never hear the end of it.
Well, that very nearly didn't as well, but it was kind of Susan knows. I mean, 2000 AD, Judge Dredd, Star Wars, and Star Trek were all really formative pieces in my childhood. They kind of formed what I do now. Science fiction work, going to games. I mean, Judge Dredd is a fascist. He's a really nasty piece of work, but I think everybody who reads Judge Dredd turned out to be the complete opposite. So we had this kind of introduction to fascism really early on. So I want to avoid that. So it fed into the culture of how I operate. So seeing those iconic pieces, I mean, I want to get a piece of work from PJ Holden anyway, because he's just a fantastic person, really nice. And then when Staz was there with that iconic piece from Dredd, and that's going to be a modern masterpiece in Dredd. I mean, it was kind of like, yeah, I've got to do it. I'm going to regret this forever if I don't get that piece. Because when he showed it to us on Twitter originally, it was like, that looks phenomenal. And then it came out in the actual 2000 AD itself. I said, wow, that is just mind blowing. That's just one of the best renderings of Dredd ever, kind of thing. And then you've got to imagine, right? I'm at this conference, right? This big, huge A3 book, okay, with the sheets, and I'm flipping over, going, "Oh, that's good." They go, "Oh, it's there!" And he goes, "Yeah, it's for sale as well." I'm like, ah! Yeah. Well, it was a kind of a foregone conclusion at that point. I'll be honest with you.
Are you going to frame it?
Yeah, I've been looking online to see if I can get some kind of UV resistant perspex glass, to shunt some of them together to keep them rigid and also to keep light out. But they cost as much as the big artwork did.
I know the one I have of the 11 print that I have, or my print but original, is it cost me a little more than the artwork itself. Yeah. But the thing is, it's in a really nice frame. The frame really suits the image, and the woman who did the frame did an amazing job. So I'm just like, it's worth it. Yeah. It's better than sticking a thumbtack in it and putting it up on your wall. Hey.
Yeah, well, what I will probably do is I'm going to get a couple of high-res scans of the actual images themselves. That's what will go in a frame, because you don't want kind of degrading the artwork over time. And that's the originals in a safe container.
Oh well, that could be. Although I like looking at the actual paper. I like looking at being able to see the pressure that goes into the paper where the pen hits it, and being able to see the texture of the pencil on it, and you don't get that with the print. It's hard. I mean, you can capture some of those details, particularly if it's black and white artwork. You can see where they use whiteout or something like that, and but being able to see it like slightly raised is kind of
I am going to lose that. You're right about that one, but I mean, they used mostly brushwork by the look of this.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because you can see. I mean, you can see the variations in the black.
Yeah.
Just like where the brush, maybe the black is a little more thicker on the edges, and even though there's black in the middle, it's a little bit thinner. Now, when they photostat it for print, that makes it high contrast, so it's not an issue. But when you get to see it like that, it's you're almost going like, why couldn't they leave it that way?
Yeah, I know. I have seen artwork and I think it just looks beautiful that way. So leave it. We don't want the pristineness, but I mean that's where that's the way comics have gone, pristine images rather than the, like say, noise. I mean, whenever I'm making games, for instance, I always leave the noise in there because the noise adds to the authenticity of the image. You don't want pristine images; you want noise.
Yeah, I agree.
Speaking of which, I did a lot of work on. I mean, I don't know. Are we going with the name Scavenger for the little mini game? I mean, does it sum up what it is?
Well, I like calling it WTF Scavenger. I like that.
Well, that's what I've been doing on Twitter. So I've been doing work on that. The biggest one was getting the asteroid field, because I had this conversation with somebody on Twitter saying that I want to make it deterministic, so each player sees an identical asteroid field with identical properties. So imagine you go to an asteroid in the far left-hand corner, and you go and scan it, and you find it contains some Earth relics. So a player can go to the exact same location and find exactly the same Earth relics. The idea being that, if you go around and say, oh, I found a heap of gold in this area here, and I go, oh, wow, I could do that as well. I go to the exact same area and I find the exact same thing you did. So it allows a certain amount of sharing between players and community building. So we can put a map up of where to find certain items that you might be looking for, things you need to build up and trade in the game. Which led on to problem is there's a lot of asteroids, and how to get that loading efficiently. Because the way I do it, this is a bit sneaky, right? Get all 1,600 asteroids. I shove them into location 0, so they're all overlapping each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I hit play, and because they all force each other out like that, you get a nice random distribution.
So basically, you're kind of creating a on awake Big Bang.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Problem is that takes around about 10 to 20 seconds to actually happen, because Unity is going, how many colliders? In one spot? Whoa, this isn't good.
Let me ask you this. What if you added what's the one thing that takes the longest time to load of all of that? Is it just the mesh?
No, it's a combination of things, right? So I'm doing an effect on each of the meshes, and it applies it to all of them. And I should have optimized the code so it doesn't do that to all of them, because there's only 8 different types of meshes at the moment, and it mixes between them.
Okay.
So you get a list, but it modifies the mesh to separate all the triangles, so I can do I can render the triangle mesh at runtime. So when you get close to an asteroid, you don't see the asteroid itself. You see a computer representation of the asteroid. And that thing.
Okay. Yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah. That's kind of a recent thing in Unity, wasn't it? Where you could swap out like 3D geometry for what was essentially like a billboard or something like that.
No, I'm not doing that. I'm not talking about that. I'm actually rendering the wireframe mesh as you get closer to it.
Oh, I see.
This is to say that you can scan this asteroid, and also that you're getting very close to this. You might not want to bump into it. Yeah.
Okay.
So this is a kind of proximity thing, and I'm using that. So in order to do that, I have to decorate the edges of the triangle, so I know in the shader where the edges are, so I can render the edges.
Okay.
So that's actually in there. I can never say it, barycentric coordinate rendering, essentially.
So
I also then colour the actual asteroid to a flat colour as it comes towards you, so it's red. Or whatever colour we decide. The wireframe's in blue. And I also use that technique also for the cloud particles as well. So when they get close to you, they fade to nothing. So you're literally flying through a cloud kind of thing. Well, that's a bit little buggy at the moment. But anyway, problem being 1,600 asteroids. That's taking 10 seconds. Obviously, I can't do that. I want it to be deterministic, and it probably wouldn't be if we got the player to do that every time, because different computers with different timings are going to produce different orientation and distribution of those asteroids. So after about 10 seconds of them settling, I then dump all their positions and angles to a file. And
so
then,
what's going to be the thing that is happening while we're waiting for that setup to occur?
Well, it's not. That's the point. So by dumping to a file now, in the second scene, I can just load it in, and then they're there. They're in their final positions.
Okay.
And the benefit of this is we can do multiple asteroid fields without any great problems.
Would it make any sense, for example, to do a kind of dynamic loading of certain components in relation to the distance from the player to the asteroid? So, for example, if you have to add in if you had to add in on start, the collider, the rigid body, if we're using it, and all that sort of stuff, that you could add those in with the nearest asteroids first, because those are the ones the player is going to be focused on immediately, and then just start adding them in the background until they're all filled out. Would that reduce the waiting time at all?
We kind of got that anyway, okay. But I mean, it doesn't actually. I mean, all the asteroids appear in a brief period of time, but I'm going to hide that anyway, because that will be done as a user interface is booting up when you join the game.
Okay.
So we're going to hide that. So this is all done on a coroutine that literally does spawn one asteroid, yields, spawn asteroid, yields, and then keeps doing that until they're all done. And it only takes about 10 seconds for the entire field to be there. But we can use that time to get the user interface up and running, do all the kind of things we need to do, plus maybe a little scroll bar to introduce the player back into the world again once they go through. So there's things to mitigate that. And I could do it based on distance from the player, but there's a lot of asteroids to the side and behind. So you'd say, well, should we only do the ones forward? Then you get into frustum culling, and it gets really complicated. Whereas the entire thing loads in pretty much no time anyway. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see what happens. See if anybody comments.
So speaking of the UI, I know you mentioned you need me to design some. So what kind of elements do we want to put in there?
Well, controls. I mean, I would love if this could run on the iPad without having to use a mouse and keyboard, yeah? So the controls are really simple. So forward, backwards, strafing left and right, rotation on the which roll. So I think it's your, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then moving up and down. So you can't tilt anytime. The camera doesn't do that.
Okay, but you can look up and down, and okay.
It's like a plane-oriented drone in a sense, okay?
Right.
It's always going to be hovering like that.
Okay, so you want to see on-screen controls for that. Is that something that is how would that connect to what's happening to players that are playing it on desktop?
Sorry?
How would we eliminate that for the desktop version? Would we not have an on-screen controller for that, or would we want to simulate it?
Keyboard.
Mouse, keyboard.
Yeah.
You don't want to use like joypad?
Yeah. We'll have those as well.
Okay. And is there any other kind of thing we should be looking at? Like, should there be like some kind of a compass type reader?
Because I want people to be able to share locations, we need an XYZ location.
So we could like put a marker in?
Yeah. We also need a compass heading as well. So it's, you could say, right, look at this location, but because you've got no orientation, you could go there and be looking in exactly the wrong direction. So a correct marker would be XYZ plus orientation or compass reading. Yeah.
So should that be like the cockpits, the cockpits like HUD, or should it be like a helmet type HUD?
I'm going to say that you aren't actually in this device. You are controlling it from some Actually, literally, imagine like in The Expanse when they're on the Rocinante and they got those iPads.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
they look
Okay.
like they're going to be iPads, aren't they? Or they're controlling it on one of those. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So it's so again, it's a representation of something. So all right.
The idea is that you're safe and sound on the WTF space station, and you're sending a probe out to the asteroid fields. You're not actually in the probe.
Right. Right. Okay. Now the other thing too is, do we want to go for that same retro feel that we've had with those other designs, or do we want to try something different for this?
That's a very good question. That was something I was going to discuss with you when you got back. So I think we should go for something different. I don't know what you feel.
So say that again.
I was saying I was going to discuss this when you got back, right?
Yeah.
Got the feeling we should go for something different.
Slightly different. Okay. Okay.
I don't know yet. I mean, I think we need to get some of the visuals down of the new rendering style.
Yeah.
And do a few tests to see what looks good on top of that.
Right. Right. Okay. Okay. Well, we're getting that. We could get into those weeds. We don't need to bother our viewers with that. But yeah, I mean, to me, that's so we should talk a little bit about, how this folds into the larger WTF universe.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, the idea, I mean, for the people who don't know this already, I mean, in WTF, the Earth has exploded, and the gameplay takes place not too far in the distant future from when the Earth exploded. So imagine the Earth exploded something like 82 years ago. So this will take place 82 years after that event took place. So things haven't really progressed that much. The debris field of Earth is still there. It hasn't turned into a massive disk as people have been suggesting. Like, yeah, but that would take thousands of years, and this isn't thousands of years in the future.
Yeah.
But I always like this idea of doing mini games that could feed into the main game, because they help build in the background story a little bit, and they also give them the ability to, if you don't want to play the main game, you can just have a go at the mini game for a day and think, I'm just going to relax, just having a look around the debris field for anything I can find. So things like trading are a major thing in the main game. But so we've opened up the trading from the what I call the tipping point version, which is the version we have with the publisher, from just being about farming into about a broad range of things. And one of those could be artifacts. Earth exploded, and yet there's this wealth of artifacts that survived the explosion. Can you go and find them? Or what would those artifacts be? They could be CDs. CD technology still survives. Yay! It could be medicines. What if medicines have survived somehow in some kind of locked storage containers? Imagine finding a can of Coke unopened, and Coke hasn't been made for at least 82 years. Yeah, that would be worth a lot of money, wouldn't it? Be irradiated from hell, but it's going to keep you awake, and things like that. And
Yeah.
there's other stuff. You may come across knowledge that's been lost in time because nobody expected the Earth to explode, so why would they put a repository of knowledge on the space station?
Right.
All that knowledge has been lost, and yet you find a big cache of it by I'm going to say mining an asteroid, but not necessarily that. Now, in the main game, before I had this idea of splitting off, I had this concept of you just pressing a button, a drone goes off, and in a couple hours it comes back and says, "I found this." And you had no real control of that when you didn't really see it. So then it suddenly occurred to me, well, what if we could see it? What if we could put that in the game? And then I thought to myself, well, if we can put that in the game, then we can split that out into a mini game. So you can choose to play the mini game and somehow feed what you get from the mini game into the main game.
Mm-hmm.
That's the bit I haven't figured out yet, how to get from the mini game into the main game.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to. It would be too easy to cheat, to keep going back to the same gold and loading up in gold and just getting too much.
Right.
But there must be a way of recording some kind of tokenized system that says, right, you found gold, here's a one-time token associated with that gold, and your game knows that you've used it already. Now, what that wouldn't stop is you passing the same token to somebody else and saying, hey, that's some gold. And I don't know whether we want to do that, but sharing is good. So if you share with somebody else, say, look, I've got these EPA tokens you could use. You play the game, you're going to get a head start. Here you go, have these tokens. That might be a good thing. Who knows?
Well, there's that. There's also the fact that once it's off the station, you're back in trading mode.
Yeah.
And so at that point, and I don't know if we're going to go that far multiplayer with the station. And maybe that's something for a later conversation. But
Well,
um,
asynchronous multiplayer on the station side of things is going to require us to have a server, and I don't think we're there. And I'm not convinced about the security going from Unity to a server, how we can secure that. And also we need a server programmer. We just don't have the funds for that at the moment.
true.
Asynchronously, as in sharing of tokens, that we could do that easily.
So, well, it's I mean, it's I kind of like the idea of having like these little offshoot games. It'll be interesting to think about what other possible mini games could come for that. And for those of our folks on the Discord channel, it's an opportunity to chime in if you think of anything that you think might make for an interesting mini game. Definitely let us know in the channel, because we'll entertain all kinds of suggestions.
Yeah. And also, if anybody can think of a really good way of bundling up data to share between games easily, that allows a one-time only use. And I know somebody's going to say blockchain, but we can't do that.
I still don't understand blockchain.
Blockchain's just too expensive. Say, hang on 10 minutes while I do this really painfully complicated calculation. Oh yeah, you've used that before. Oh bugger.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's getting too close to getting too close to Bitcoin, which already has kind of a bad taste in my mouth already. So,
well it is big. I mean, blockchain is Bitcoin, isn't it?
So
yeah, I mean, it would solve the tokenized issue, but yeah, I just don't fancy implementing blockchain in the game at all in any way whatsoever. It's just no, not going there.
Yeah, we got enough on our plate as it is, I think.
But I can store that kind of information in the save game easily. It just means your save game gets bigger the more you import.
Right. So, well, I think we'll wrap it up there. And you'll look for this on YouTube and on Discord. This is going to be kind of rough and tumble for a while until we get until we kind of figure this all out. But hopefully this gives you guys a little bit of insight into how the game development process works, how we work, and hopefully it's somewhat entertaining. I don't know. So until next time, everybody, this is I'm Jay, by the way. I don't think we introduced ourselves at the beginning of this thing.
Maybe we should do the introduction now and paste it on the beginning.
Okay, and then just like have an awkward cut.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
No, anyway, yeah, this is Jay and I'm Byron. Jay is the co-designer. He does a lot of the artwork for the game as well. I'm also the co-designer and the coder.
Very good. All right. So we'll see you guys next time. Just keep watching us on Discord, and I don't know if I can say like and subscribe and hit the little bell button.
Do that anyway.
do it anyway, even if it's not there. Just draw your own, stick it on your screen, and push it.
There's someone. There.
Yeah. There. All right. See y'all later.